So you want to buy your first camera. Let me walk you through the main 5 things to consider when buying your first camera and hopefully make the decision a little bit easier. Stick around to the end where I'll go over a few specific camera models that I recommend for different price tiers and different camera types. Number 1, camera type. So when you're looking online at different cameras, you're going to see a lot of different terms like mirrorless, DSLR, point and shoot. But what do these all mean and what's the difference for you when making a decision? So let's break down each of those different types. First up is a point and shoot camera. So point and shoot cameras are known for being the most compact, slim, easy to use cameras. They don't have an interchangeable lens, so these cameras are a really great option for casual photography, shooting with the family, getting kids started in photography, and they're going to offer some lower price points as well. After point and shoot, we have the DSLR cameras. So DSLR stands for Digital Single Lens Reflex. So DSLRs have a physical mirror inside that allows that light to be reflected from the lens to the viewfinder. So with that mirror inside, these cameras can tend to be a bit heavier, a bit bulkier, and have a little bit of a noise every time you fire because of that internal mechanism. DSLR cameras, though, are extremely reliable, sturdy cameras. I highly recommend them. I used to shoot with a DSLR camera, and we'll get into what I shoot now in a bit. But DSLRs, really, you can't go wrong if you want to get started out while also having an interchangeable lens option, so you can start to work with different lenses. And so next up would be the mirrorless cameras. And so that's all that those mean. Mirrorless, there is no mirror inside. So the body is able to be a little bit thinner, a little bit lighter, and you can often do full silent shooting mode. More often nowadays, mirrorless cameras also have a faster, more advanced autofocus system. All 3 of these camera types are great options though. I started out with a point and shoot camera as a kid, and then had a DSLR camera through college and the beginning of my career, and now I shoot with a mirrorless camera. So number 2 is to think about what types of photos you really want to take. Do you want to do wildlife photography? Do you want to take edgy portraits of yourself or your friends? Do you want to capture family moments at events? Or do you want to do beautiful landscape photography? You can shoot any type of subject with any type of camera, but some types of cameras lend themselves better to shooting different subject matter. For example, if you want to shoot birds and wildlife photography, having a camera with a fast autofocus system and quiet shutter speed options really allows you to capture those shots. So something like a mirrorless camera is going to be better for that type of photography. On the flip side, if you really want to capture family events and just have a step up from your smartphone camera, maybe allow the kids in the family to use the camera and not worry about them having to deal with lenses or breaking a lens, then a point and shoot camera is a really great option for that. Additionally, if you want to do mainly portrait style in-studio photography, then the weight and size of your camera really doesn't matter that much. You're going to be inside where you can always set your camera down or even use a tripod for taking photos. So those are some different considerations given the type of subject matter that you may want to shoot. Number 3, size and weight. And yes, size does matter when it comes to picking out your camera. The size, weight, and comfort of the camera in your hand is really going to affect how often you want to lug it around and how often you take photos with it. For example, for me nowadays, shooting with the DSLR just feels slightly too bulky, and I prefer the little bit slimmer frame of the mirrorless cameras. I recommend, if you can, go into a camera store, get your hands on a few different types of cameras, and that way you can really see what the size is, how it feels in your hand, what kind of bags it fits into, so that you can really optimize for a type of camera that you're going to take out more often and use more often. Number 4, brands. So even though there are universal lenses, you do kind of want to think about what brand ecosystem you want to grow into over time. So for example, I started out doing my photography with a Canon 60D, and over time I did have some universal lenses from great brands like Sigma, but I mainly purchased Canon lenses. This saved me the cost of having to buy any lens adapters, and worrying if the universal lens brands I was working with were going to be ideal for my camera and as sharp as they possibly could be. So you don't have to buy into the ecosystem, like I said, but it's a consideration. Around 2018, I became really interested in Sony cameras. So I actually sold all my Canon gear and bought my first Sony camera and have since invested in many Sony lenses. You can see some behind me there because I love the Sony glass. It's one of the main reasons I switched to Sony is because of the fast autofocus systems for wildlife photography, but it's the glass, the lenses. There's so many amazing options. They're not cheap, but every single one I've purchased is amazing quality. So something to consider when you're buying your first camera body. Do I love this brand? Do I see myself growing within this brand over time? Because a camera is ultimately a long-term investment. Some main brands to consider and for you to research are Sony, Canon, Nikon, and Fujifilm. There's brands other than these, but these are 4 really solid brands that whatever you choose within these are going to be really great camera options for you. And a fun luxury brand for you to look at is Hasselblad. Now, I'm not recommending this as an entry-level camera, but you're already out there doing the research. Why not take a look at these and just have fun seeing what a camera like this looks like, what kind of images it produces. And in the future, I'm going to review my Hasselblad and kind of walk you through why I think it's worth the money and why I love it so much. Number 5 is budget. So be realistic with yourself about this, about what you want to spend and can spend. Keep in mind you're not just buying the camera body. You also need to have things like batteries, SD cards, a lens. You can check out my video about top 10 accessories for beginner photographers, and that will really kind of give you an overview of what you're going to want to start with so that you can think ahead about the proper amount to invest in on your camera. So now for the fun part. Let's look at some overall camera suggestions at different price points. I'll walk you through a low, mid, high price point for each of these different camera types. So these can at least get you off and going with good research on which cameras might be right for you. So point and shoot cameras. A really great low cost entry level point and shoot camera is the Canon PowerShot SX740HS. Currently at $399, this camera has a great balance between the price and the quality. It features a 20.3 megapixel sensor, a 40 times optical zoom, and a 4K video recording capabilities. Last I checked though, this camera is out of stock in a lot of places, but you're going to be safe with any of the Canon PowerShot series. So check those out for a really good entry-level point-and-shoot camera. Next up for a middle-cost point-and-shoot camera is the Sony RX100-7 at $1,298. While this has some similar features to the Canon PowerShot, it has a much superior zoom lens at a 24 to 200 millimeter. And it offers more advanced autofocus and tracking capabilities. Finally, for the point and shoots at a high price point is the Fujifilm X100-5 at $1,399. This camera offers a 21.6 megapixel sensor and a 23 millimeter f2 lens. So not a big jump in price between the mid-tier and the top tier for these 2 point and shoot cameras. So I'd recommend if you're going to go with a high-priced point-and-shoot camera to just jump up to that Fujifilm, but wait until you see what the prices are for some great DSLR and mirrorless cameras, because you may want to just move into those and start working with interchangeable lenses. So for a really great DSLR low price point, you can start out with the Canon EOS Rebel T7 with a 18 to 55 millimeter lens for only $429. The Canon EOS Rebel series of cameras is a really great starting out series for DSLR cameras. This model particularly offers a 24.2 megapixel sensor and full HD 1080 video recording. Next, for a middle-priced DSLR is the Nikon D3500 with an 18 to 55 millimeter lens at only $649. This camera has a 24.2 DX format CMOS sensor and full HD video shooting. It also has an 11-point autofocus system. And finally, we're going to jump up in price a good bit here, but the quality is going to jump up high as well. For a high-priced DSLR camera is the Canon EOS 90D. at $1,199. It features a 32.5 megapixel APS-C CMOS sensor. It also has a 10 frame per second continuous shooting speed and can record 4K video. Finally, for mirrorless cameras, we'll start out with a low price point of the Sony Alpha A6100 for $748. This camera is a really great entry-level mirrorless camera and has 24.2 megapixel APS-C sensor, 425 phase detection autofocus points, and 11 frames per second of continuous shooting. For a mid-price mirrorless camera, we'll take a look at the Fujifilm X-T30 at $899. It has a 26.1 megapixel APS-C sensor and shoots in 4K video. And I absolutely love the aesthetic of Fujifilm cameras. They have such a beautiful blend of retro and modern design. But aesthetic aside, let's jump to a high price mirrorless camera. And I'm really going to jump up here because I'm biased with this camera. Keep in mind there's a lot of different price options between the mid-range and this high option here. But we're going to talk about the Sony Alpha A7R5 at $3,898. Now this is actually my main photography camera currently and the camera that I use to shoot these videos with. The main upgrades with a camera like this are the 61 megapixel full frame CMOS sensor, 8K and 4K video recording, and its insanely fast autofocus system. Alright, that's everything for today. Go ahead and comment down below, let me know what cameras you're thinking about buying, and I'll see you in the next one.